Hello again. Uh, well, some of the certain aspects that I look when I'm starting to think about in a new post, like this is the one that I'm going to be working now, are the following ones. First thing, of course, is making sure that I have the right intention or motivation or the right, information to tell. What is it that that post is specifically is telling? Um, in this case, most or mainly what I'm going to be looking is for that gracefulness in the dance. I think that is something that really catches my attention, how the character is going to be trying to fly as he dances, Um, I think that's very important because sometimes we got into a space of posing, just focusing on how it looks, focusing just in the visual aspect, and I think it's a very important thing to do, to also, keep the mind of truly what's the emotion behind it or what's the true intention with behind the pose that we are doing. Um, Once I do that, I generally jump into and observing like the forces or the energy or whatever are those energies that makes the character to get those emotions or that informations out, right? Like we can see how the character is trying to do the best to bring calm up, try to file by himself. I'm gonna really try to do my best to get like a good sense of staying in the tiptoes. See how that feels. And generally, when I look at the forces, that also tells the line of action. In this case, it's super clear what's the line of action, even though that we have these two limbs that are a little bit spreading off the body, but clearly we're creating this kind of line of action over here. Then next I like to focus or see how is the overall shape, and when I mean by overall shape, first thing I do is that I always think that the character is like even though that we're having a 3D character here, I always try to consider my characters as, as lines, right? And I'm gonna try to get as close as I can to this, even always considering that the arms, the legs, the hairs, or the shapes in the head are more like lines. So, and I like to see the whole character as a drawing. That's probably why I always draw my poses first, so I can switch a little bit more into that thinking of, okay, let's consider this pose or this work more as a 2D drawing or a 2D animation drawing rather than a posing of a 3D marionette. And sometimes that, or another thing that also takes my attention a lot, and I try to look for it before I start, is the relationships of the different parts of the body. I really love to find lines that are together or that combines different parts of the body, like for example this one here that goes all the way from the wrist till the feet. That's something I'm really looking forward to see if I can find. Let's see also how it goes this line here, if I can get like a very nice feeling that goes from the chest down to this straight line to the leg. Again, this is going to create some contrast, and when I do those kind of things overall, that those two last pieces of exploration and looking for my favorite spots to work on a pose, which is the relationship in between the parts of the body and the lines, and considering the character as a line, I found out things like, okay, things that I want to work, like contrast, like this curve versus this line here, or the harmony in between the arms. Here there is not like a lot of harmony in the limbs, but I will definitely be looking for that. I'm gonna be also trying to make sure that this line also works very nice, that goes from the head all the way down till this leg. see how that goes. And yeah, so let's jump in. Let's do this. And talking about how to attack a pose in terms of, okay, controls, what should I move first, what should I move later? Me particularly, is that something that with the years I become a little bit more organic, and so I mix things here and there, but generally I start to move what I consider the primary poses. In Toy, we've built the character in a way that we have different categories on the characters. So I generally always start posing with the primary controls. With usually the primary controls are those controls that move the main part of the character, like the IK arms or the chest, the head, right? So generally that's what I do first, and I start blocking, or at least getting the main shape of the character with those controls first. Sometimes I jump into secondaries too, because it's already, secondaries is giving us something that is more kind of like in the middle, like elbows or some bends, for example. But I used to hold a little bit to do that. That's why I just stick first and work with the primary controls. So let's do that first. So this is pretty much it, what I've got only working with the primary controls. If we look closer to this body here, we can see that it's getting more or less there. It's close, but remember that first thing that I mentioned to you is that the first thing that I try to do is to get an imprint of what is the intention or the emotion behind the character. I said that I was looking for gratefulness as the character tried to fly, as a ballet dancer, and that is more or less here in the 2D. But in the 3D, I think I'm going a step further, because my work is not just to copy this, is also to represent as clear and as appealing as I can what is inside the character. That's the emotion, that's the intention that I'm talking about, right? So that's why I never attach myself to what's happening in here. I always try to really use this as a reference, and then try a step further. And even though I want to keep some of the line aspects that I mentioned, or the appealing aspects that I mentioned, it's always going to be under that feeling or that emotion or that intention that I was looking for. So all this that I've done here is basically just with primary controls, as I mentioned. Maybe something to comment on that would be interesting is that I brought this the hand sizes, I brought it up like quite a few, 1.3, almost 1.4. That is helping to to bring all this energy of the force up a little bit. So right now probably I will start working a little bit more in face, because as I mentioned in another video, I like to, at some point, I like to get that face going on, so I get a feedback and the motion and everything that is going under this neutral face that doesn't really communicate so long. And that also boosts my emotion, or my motivation to keep going a little bit. So yeah, let's do that. Let's jump into work a little more on secondary, those secondary controls. That, as I said before, is more like just more bends, more elbows and knees. No deformers yet. Little by little. Let's do this. So I've been working a little bit the face and the hands, mostly just adding some nice poses to the fingers. I'm a big fan of working hands and the appeal. So something that I always have a lot of fun how different is how different they look in the 3D and subtle are those changes that we are looking for in actually the camera. So my goal is what I see here in the camera, no matter what this is actually doing. I mean, I try to not do very crazy stuff, but I know what I'm looking for in terms of camera, so that's what I try to do in the 3D. So again, yeah, just try to get some nice harmony in between the fingers and the shape. And the face, this is pretty much good to get started, you know, that kind of feeling of enjoyment as he dances. I've done that trick that I already mentioned before, which is try to bring the lips to the front, at least with using these two controls, the two main controls from the center. We bring them out in order to get that kind of 2D mouth, you know, where this is a little hidden more in the back of the camera. And also I worked a lot with those eyelashes, a lot, to make sure that we get that feeling. Eyelashes are super important to understand also the motion of the character and all that. So most probably from now on, I didn't work actually any of these guys here, the bends and all that, but I'm starting to feel that I want to get into doing some more curves and probably go and jump and work a little bit more probably of these lattices overall in the face. So at this stage is where I just basically forget about the order, because now what I want to do is to get like a nice blend of the intention or the emotion that I'm telling and the appeal. And for that, when I really focus on appeal, I forget about the orders of the controls, and I just basically touch everything that I need in order to get that nice sense of appealing that I'm looking for. So let's do that. Okay, so something very interesting that is happening as I keep working a little bit on the pose and mostly in the hand pose is how the emotion or the attitude of the character changes just by a hand gesture. So this is the hand pose that you've guys seen before. But again, I wanted to find something with a little bit more contrast and more harmony with this arm. So I went ahead and I did this, which I find that have more harmony or a little more appeal, visually speaking, than this one, right? But what happened is that with this, I miss the feeling of flying, dancing in the air, right? That I really like from this one. On the other hand, this is more like graceful, like look how cool I am, look how cool I dance. And it's just a simple change in the hand. So I will have to come with a decision. Definitely, if I would be working in a shot, I will have to pick the one that match more the purpose of the shot, whatever it's telling. But in this case, since it's just a pose that maybe is not that important, I will have to just pick. But anyways, I just wanted to share this as I keep working on that. So the last few little details, more or less, just showing it from one frame to the other. I went ahead and worked mostly on lattices and some of the deformers, just adding a little bit more of dynamism to the hands. Tiny little detail here, probably is stupid, but no, it's adding a little bit of it's adding a little bit more of harmony here, more of difference. This is a little more geometrically perfect, and here I'm just adding a little more of harmony in the lines of this part here. And in this guy, I worked a little bit with these controls here. The one that controls the upper part of the head. This one, where's the other one? This. So As you can see, it creates like a vector curve that comes from here down here, and adds that kind of energy or force that comes out of from in between the eyes. Let's say that it's like this spot here is the one that says, that enjoys, that is like flying. All the energy comes out of the imagination of the dancer. And I think that's pretty much it. As you can see, I opted for this version instead of the other one. I like this one more, the feeling of flying and the enjoyment. The other one was a little too overacted, I think. So this one is nice. So I think this is going to be the final pose. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy it.